welcome back to Your Average Witch, where every Tuesday we talk about witch life, witch stories, and sometimes a little witchcraft. Your Average Witch is brought to you by Crepuscular Conjuration. In this episode, I'm talking to C.E. McCann, an author and witch in Arizona. We talked about blood, Catholicism, and getting off social media. Before we get started, I want to invite you to the grand reopening of the Ninth House. From Thursday, October 31st to Sunday, November 2nd, come to the All Souls celebration to welcome the new owners of the Ninth House here in Tucson. I'll actually be vending there on Friday, November 1st from noon to 5. I'll have spell kits, simmer blends, flower presses, jewelry, and of course I'll have one of the Stevie Nicks Full Moon and Stars necklaces with me. If you haven't been keeping up with Grandpa, Stevie Nicks wore a necklace I made in her newest video for the Lighthouse, and she wore it again over the weekend for her Saturday Night Live appearance. The necklace is currently out of stock because I'm waiting on a shipment of silver sheet and some more stones, but once I get the current orders out, I'll let everyone know so that they can come get theirs. The first notifications will happen in the monthly Magic Marco Polo group, so they get to know first. Then I'll tell all my Witchy Wonderment subscribers, and then I'll tell everyone on social media. So if you want to be the first one to get it, come subscribe to Crepuscular Conjuration. You get, well, number one, you get to know first off when the Stevie Nicks necklaces are available, but you also get early access to this podcast. You get bonus podcast episodes, spell crafting videos, monthly spells, printable downloads, recipes. There's all kinds of stuff on there. Just come join Crepuscular Conjuration and you'll get set up. And now, after all that, let's get to the stories. Hello, C. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thanks for being here. I am too. Can you please introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what you do and where they can find you?
Absolutely. So my author name is C.E. McCann, MC and then a capital C-A-N-N. I'm on Facebook and X. I am an author. I am self-published and traditionally published. I have 2 self-published books out and then traditionally published one that'll be out in a couple months. I'm an author. I'm a heathen. I'm a witch. A little bit of everything. But yeah, that's who I am.
Cool. So what does it mean when you call yourself a witch?
So for me, I'd say like it's a lot about recreating the macrocosm on the microcosm. So trying to match the above on the below, doing what works, following what I know, fixing my cough with garlic, honey, and ginger rather than Dayquil. And then, teaching my family and my children to respect and honor the earth and the gods, and then a whole lot of necromancy.
Oh, okay. Would you say you have any family history with witchcraft, or what was your spiritual upbringing like when you were a kid?
So that's actually pretty interesting. So kind of. My mom and I talked about it recently. She has this insane intuition that is never wrong. Like the woman knows everything. If when I was a teenager and I was like, hey, I met this new person and they're doing this, this, and this. And she's like, that person's going to fuck you over. It's going to happen. I know it. And then it would happen. And I'd be like, damn it. And then I'm also a descendant of a man named Hannibal Barca. We all learned about him in history class. I don't know if that's a common thing to learn about in history class, but he was a military strategist. He fought the Romans by crossing the Alps on elephants. So he wasn't Christian. He was pagan, the Punic religion of the time. He's the one that made that quote, I will either find a way or make one. There's actually an album by the band Ex Deo about him. And that kind of pushed me into paganism, really, finding out about him. Rather than other religions, because I was interested in Satanism at first, theistic Satanism. But then I found him, and I was like, oh, paganism is pretty cool, and kind of spiraled from there.
So So, can you introduce us to your practice? Do you have any consistent or maybe even daily things that you do?
Yeah. So I'm kind I call myself a heathen for the most part. Um, but really, like, I don't really know what I would really call it, because it's not the way that typically, modern Germanic or Norse polytheism is practiced. I do a lot of things that are based in ceremonial magic. And then, so I mean, it's kind of weird. But my actual physical practice, I try to be as close to traditional, like by the book paganism from Germany as I can. But there's still some, odd man out kind of practices. But as far as consistent daily practices, I shower with intention. My husband and I both do. So like cleansing in the shower, coffee and tea is being stirred with intention. We do this thing called Hail the Day. It's from the Volsung saga. Essentially, it's just being thankful for the day and the night and good things. And then meditation and dream work. I do a lot of meditation and dream work basically every day.
We'd probably be happier if everybody hailed the day.
Right? It's such a cool practice. Like it's a lot like if you're familiar with like Libareshes from Thelema, it's a little similar to that in my opinion. That's how I kind of do it. Except I'm not getting up at midnight to do a bunch of weird hand motions like in Thelema. Not that Thelema's weird, but you know what I mean. But morning and night, hailing the day, hailing the night, just being excited and like new opportunities, and I'm alive again. That's cool.
How would you say witchcraft has changed your life?
In a few different ways, actually. So I found other religions like started not being, the typical monotheist when I was around 11 or 12. My mom was super supportive, and she was like, "Yeah, dude, whatever you want to do." So I found Anton LaVey immediately, and she was supportive of that. So I kind of like skipped around a little bit. Then I found theistic Satanism. I found Crowley, and I kind of like went off from there, right? So I I had a little spat with Catholicism later on. So I think that the biggest thing, like learning about both paganism, different kinds of spirituality, and then the Abrahamic religions, is that I'm not born sinful. I think that's one of the biggest things that changed for me, is that I'm not born sinful. My gods have better things to worry about than if I'm using the earth to heal myself or having weird sex and talking to dead relatives. I think that my gods have a lot bigger things to worry about than that. And then shadow work has completely changed my life. I'm not as big of a piece of shit as I used to be. So that's helped.
The concept of a baby not being innocent is pretty fucking wild. And by wild, I mean
Isn't it? That whole thing. Big agree. I really do. And I know it's kind of like the typical pagan thing to say, is that like, well, it's just a method of controlling people. But I feel like it really is. Because I mean, like, you look at like the concept of hell in the Abrahamic religions, and it's like in the Bible, it's based off of that place, Gehenna, which was a physical place where they burnt garbage. And they're like, yeah, you're going to go there and you're going to stay there when you die because you looked at someone's ankles. Oh no. I think that's
Here's
ridiculous.
the thing. If I'm born with it, if there's nothing I can do to help it, why should I bother? I'm just going to fucking go with it.
Exactly. No, I agree completely. I think that even from a Christian standpoint, they say that their God makes no mistakes. Not that I'm shitting on Christians. I mean, I don't actually mind them. I don't mind Catholicism, the people that are serious about it. But I think that if your God that makes no mistakes and he made you a certain way, then I mean, I'm not understanding the logic there.
Could you mean gay?
That's another thing. Why is their God so concerned over what people are doing with their genitals? Why is that his deal? Forget childhood cancer. I don't like that person wants to do this with their body part. That's just so weird to me. So weird. I don't understand it.
Or maybe a giant, Murderous hurricane.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. as long as they're not being gay. So
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest motivator in your practice?
Spite. No, I'm just kidding. Above all, my family, I'd say. I want my kids to grow up knowing what plants they can touch and which ones they can't, what spirits they can talk to and which ones they should probably leave alone. And then when I die, when my husband dies, I want them to be able to call on us after for guidance. So I think that those really my family is the biggest thing, but also the like incessant need to be better and do better. So a lot of it is through shadow work. So just being a better human and working on my ridiculous God complex because I have a horrible one. And I've got it mostly in check now, but working on that consistently and trying to be a better human.
What is your biggest struggle when it comes to witchcraft?
Oh, this sounds really douchey and I don't mean it to, but finding people to bounce ideas off of that aren't willfully stupid. That sounds so rude, but like, it feels like a lot of people, kind of want to be spoon fed everything. And like, I've been doing this for over 20 years. Like, I don't have time to spoon feed people, and I'm fine answering questions and doing things like that, but like, do the work and then like having someone to talk to that's also done the work. That's really hard. And I don't mean ignorant or like not knowing something, but actually willfully dumb.
Do you ever have imposter syndrome? And if you do, what do you do about it?
So not as much anymore. Honestly, the biggest spat that I had with that when I was LARPing as a Catholic. So I was baptized Roman Catholic as a baby. And
Another ridiculous
I've
thing.
been pagan my whole life.
Child
I know,
baptism.
dude. Okay, so I know. So it's interesting. I'll get back to the question in a second, but I'll like squish this in there. It's interesting because in my religion, which I'm a Germanic pagan for the most part, there is a ceremony that you do with babies. There's a name giving, and then it's like it's called like vatniausa, and like it's kind of like it means like sprinkling of water, so it's kind of like that, but really the whole thing is like the mother presents the baby to the father and says, like, you know, this is my child, this is what it's named, and everyone's like, hell yeah. And then they get teething gifts, which are it's essentially a baby shower, really. But they like it's actually in the lore too. Frey is given where he lives as a teething gift. So it's an interesting thing, and it's always funny to wonder which one comes first. But I feel like the Christian one is kind of more of a along that same lines as like, okay, now we own your child. But yeah, so imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
when I had my little spat with Catholicism, it just didn't feel like me. I liked the priest that I met with later on in life. His name was Father Dan Kampschneider. He was really nice. He did not like my occult tattoos. I have this big sigil of Baal on my foot and a huge hammer on my back and a Mjolnir. And he was like, you need to get those removed. And I was like, that's probably not going to happen. I paid a lot of money for those. But yeah, that I think I felt like it wasn't me, and it felt like I was pretending to be something I'm not. And then as soon as I went back to paganism and witchcraft, I was like, okay, I'm home. I'm good.
Why do they care what your skin looks like also?
And they say that they don't. But I don't know. Like, it's also, I don't know. I think I put him off anyway because I'm pretty much covered from my neck down in tattoos, and I have huge stretched ears. And he was like, okay, and you're a Catholic? And I was like, yeah, actually.
Ugh, no thank you.
It was interesting though. Like, I'm glad I did it because I learned so much. I learned so much about the Abrahamic religions. I learned about Catholicism. I learned a lot of Latin. So like, I'm glad I did it. It was there is value in what I did, I guess, but it's not me, you know?
Even though I hate it, we probably find value in everything that happens to us, or could.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in every bit of like, I think in every religion, and I'm not like an omnist or whatever, but I think that in every religion, there's, you know, a kernel of knowledge that's there. There's something there that you can take from it and be like, okay, this is a really cool practice, or this is a really cool bit of information. Even the Bible, like there's a ton of places in the Bible with like, if you look at it as like an alchemical text or just a spiritual text, like,
They got some nice
I think
terms
there's a
of
lot that
phrase
you can
in
get
there.
from it. Yeah, yeah. Like, what is it in is it Proverbs? I can't remember, where they bash the babies against the rocks. Like, yeah, it's a great book. But sorry, that's kind of fucked up.
Speaking of that, what brings you the most joy in your practice?
Certainly not that.
I kill myself.
Oh god.
Anyway, what brings you the most joy in your practice?
Honestly, some of the biggest ones are my things that I do in dream work. Being able to see my dead grandparents in my dreams and hear them laugh was, I cried for days after that. I'm a crier anyway. I cry a lot. So, but that was one of the biggest highlights of my entire practice, was being able to do that. Seeing my kid wear a Mjolnir, know what it is and why she wears it. And then like when I write something and someone says like, hey, this part helped me with this, or like, hey, I read this part in your book and it really changed my perspective on this, like those kind of things, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Me too.
What is something you did early on in your practice that you don't do anymore, and why don't you?
Trying to correct people who are committed to like being not listening. I think most things change and grow as we do, but I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, if you're not going to listen, then I'm not going to try and correct it anymore. And I think a lot of that stems from my weird God complex again. And I've kind of let go a lot of that and being like, I don't need to be right all the time. I don't need to correct everything. I don't need to like, I don't need to do all that. So I think that.
Doing that is exhausting, and it's so nice when you realize I don't have to make you see anything. I don't care if you understand me or not. Click. It's great.
Exactly.
What is your favorite tool? It doesn't have to be a physical object. It can be like a song or a smell or a theory you heard once. How do you use it in your practice?
I think my favorite tool would be really my rune sets. So I have a few different sets that I've made. And my favorite one is, so we have a lot of rattlesnakes here, and I know it sounds kind of douchey, but like if a diamondback is coming near my house, I'm going to dispatch it. But I'm not gonna let it go to waste, so I make things out of them. And most of my rune sets are either have there's diamondback or sidewinder. I use blood a lot in my practice. So I have rune sets that are made with goat blood, rattlesnake blood, my blood, pig blood. But my favorite set has mine and a diamondback rattlesnake. And then it's stained. So it's a very pretty set. It's made with black walnut. It's a really pretty rune set. And I've never gotten a bad answer out of it. It's always super accurate. So I think that particular rune set, and then blood.
I actually just put blood in a spell kit today.
Yeah?
Yeah, there was this rooster who was just a raging asshole, and he kept attacking us. So, I mean, we ate him, but I kept some of the blood for like protection and aggression spells.
That's perfect.
How do you pull yourself out of a magical slump?
get off social media.
Hey.
um, that is one of the biggest like problems for me. Like I got rid of TikTok because of this. Like I really, really, really hate social media. And it's kind of like, it kind of sucks because like you really need it now, especially like as an author. And I have like little side business selling rune sets and stuff. So it's hard not to be on social media, but like it really brings me down. Like I become someone that I don't want to be. I'm angry if I'm on social media a lot, and like I can't do it. So getting off of that and doing like a social media cleanse, and then giving an offering to the gods for inspiration, that always helps me. Like if I'm really down and I like, can't figure out anything, I'll give an offering to Odin and ask for inspiration. And that tends to work. So
What is something you wish was discussed more in the witch community?
Terminology, and then what is a good source of information rather than someone's opinion. I think that is like one of the biggest downfalls to witchcraft and contemporary society, whatever, is those issues. And you see it a lot with social media. And again, I know I bitch about social media all the time, but I think that is one of the biggest problems, is that people get on there and they confuse terminology, they confuse practices, or they mix it all together. Like everything is witchcraft, or everything is Satanism, or everything is pagan. You know what I mean? And then a source of information is not TikTok. I'm sorry. Like it's not TikTok. Like granted, books sometimes aren't either. Like you shouldn't trust any book. You shouldn't trust my books without like doing background research and like comparing and contrasting it to other sources. But I think that's one of the biggest problems, is that people believe everything that they hear. And if it's a viral video, then obviously it's true. And that's not the case. And that ends up spreading more information. Like you hear some of the most, and like, there's nothing wrong with UPG. There's nothing wrong with having your own feelings on things. But like when you're trying to change fact to match your opinion, I don't like that. When it comes to sources and lore and history anyway, I don't like that. Like do whatever you want, like do as thou wilt, or whatever, whatever Crowley said, something about butt stuff, I'm sure Crowley said, but anyway, but like, research the lore and know facts before you make educated guesses and opinions on it. And then half of the problems in the debates that we have won't be a thing. We won't have to debate these little things that, I was having these conversations 20 years ago that we're having again now. It just feels like one big circle jerk because nobody reads or researches. And I think that's, and rant, that's my, that's my problem.
Don't be afraid to ask for citations, people. If they have a problem with giving you the citation, that makes me suspect of them and the information they're giving.
Exactly. And like, granted, sometimes like when it's my kindred or my husband, my sources, trust me, bro, or it was revealed to me in a dream. Like, but if you're giving information to people, especially people that are new, know what you're doing, know what you're talking about, and have something to back it up before you put it out there.
Think about the 3 biggest influences in your practice, whether it's people or a single person or a pet or a book or a song you heard once. Thank them for how they have influenced you.
My husband, I sound like such a schoolgirl when I talk about him, but my husband, I thank him just about every day for this stuff because he's taught me so much. He's been a heathen a lot longer than I have. He's my Gothi, actually. And he's everything that I'm not in the best ways. Like it's such a cliche, stupid thing to say, but like he is the yin to my yang, like everything that I lack, he has. So I appreciate him and would thank him to the end of time. The song Emir by Danheim, that song like pumps me up. Like I am obsessed with everything that they've done anyway. But that song gets me pretty hype. And then Odin, just the god Odin, and that's why he's gets almost all of my books dedicated to him, and the biggest of the offerings. But if I could thank him in person, I would, because he's helped me a lot.
What advice do you have for somebody just starting out?
The same advice that I have for everybody else, pretty much. Stay off social media when you're learning. If you can find information in a book, then compare and contrast it to other books, do that, and know your shit before you speak. You don't need to be teaching or doing magic for other people when you first start out. Think outside the box. Study everything, not just your initial preferences and initial practice. Like, study everything. Anything that you can get your hands on, read it. Even if all you get out of a book is, I hate this book, it's not for me, at least you've gotten something out of it. So I would say, like, just consume everything. You don't have to keep it. You can take what works and leave the rest, but just read everything and don't listen when people tell you not to.
Except for the movie Cabin Boy. Don't ever watch that.
What is that?
Hot garbage.
What is that?
It's a complete trash piece of shit movie that made me want to die for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. Well, don't watch Cabin Boy. God. Keep that shit away.
So now that you've seen what it's like to talk to me, who do you think it would be fun to have as a guest on my show?
Oh my gosh. So I have a suggestion. One of my really good friends, she does the covers for all of my books, except for one of my books she just helped me with, and then got me the font. But her name is Xana Farah. It's XANAFERA on all social media. She's an artist. Beautiful art. She does like comics. She does book covers. She does commissions. Like, she's super, super fucking cool. And she's also a witch, and literally one of the nicest human beings that I've ever met in my life. So I would love to see her interviewed.
Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up? Anything I didn't ask? Any questions you had for me? Anything going on with you?
So I'll talk about the books that I have out and the one that's coming out. So far I have 2 self-published books on Amazon right now. One is called Alchemical Consciousness, Transmuting the Mind. It helps a lot with developing psychic abilities. There's a lot of exercises in there to help with that, all the clairs, so to speak. And then if you're interested in like trance work and dream work, those exercises will really help. And then I have another book out called True North, a historically reverent guide to heathenry. It's basically my practice. I wrote it essentially for my kindred, but it's called True North, TruNorth, and it's on Amazon. But it's just explaining, like, as close to historically accurate as I can get the practice of Germanic or Norse polytheism. And then my book that's traditionally published through my publisher, the Three Little Sisters, will be out. It'll be available for pre-order November 22nd and then released December 13th. And that one is called Alchemy of the Gods, Occultism and Northern Mythology. And it's basically connecting occult theories and occult practices to Northern mythology. And also it explains the runes and understanding the runes through alchemy, spiritual alchemy. It goes into numerology, sacred geometry, and how those relate to Germanic and Norse mythology. I think it's a pretty interesting book, not to toot my own horn or anything, but it's pretty cool. So I have those 3 books. And then I have a little business page that I don't really use anymore, but it's called Hex and Hammer, HEXN Hammer. And I sell rune sets. A lot of them have blood on them, but yeah, that's what I do.
So the last 2 things I ask of my guests, thing number 1 is recommend something. It doesn't have to be witch related, just whatever you're into right now. Go
camping as often as you can. and go learn about which plants in your area that you can safely consume. I recommend that to everybody. It doesn't matter if they're into anything that I'm into. Like, I think that is one of the best skills that you can have, is knowing like how to camp, how to survive. Even if it's just for, a fucking weekend, go out and camp in your yard, do something, get outside and sleep outside. That's my advice. Sleep outside.
I actually took a survival class in college for 1 semester. It was really fun, and I also recommend everybody do that. If you can find somebody teaching a survival course that lets you have at least one overnight, you should totally do it.
God, that'd be cool. That would be really fun. I grew up in Vermont, and like part of our classes, like for science, was like learning how to track cats and like how to like go hiking safely and like, don't fuck with bears. So like I love that shit.
Like domestic cats?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Yeah, that is actually a personal hobby. I do neighborhood cleanups. I track the cats down. I would be okay with that, honestly. I fucking love cats. I love them. I have this huge she's a Chantilly Tiffany is her breed. She's this massive long-haired black cat. I'm obsessed with cats. That's it. Sorry. That's side tangent. I love cats. Oh my God. Okay.
So the last
I was telling my husband before this, I was like, I'm going to say something real stupid. You wait. And there it is.
That's not
there it is.
That's hilarious. I enjoy cats as well. So the last thing I ask is, please tell me a story. It can be a story that happened to you. It can be a story that you love from childhood, whatever.
I have a good one. So I think it was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year. So me and my husband are pretty woo-woo. Like, we try not to be too woo-woo, but we're pretty fucking woo-woo. And we got into this little phase where we'd go out and we'd go to graveyards and we'd bring a white noise machine and we'd, bring all of our tools and we'd talk to spirits, right? So we found a graveyard where there were priests, reverend, whatever. And we were like, how funny would it be if we got them to talk to us? And I was like, well, doesn't that kind of prove to us that like the Christians are kind of lying? And we're like, fuck it, let's try it. And we did. And granted, like, I'm sure you could find a way to like say like this, this is how we can explain this or whatever, but I choose to believe that it was a woo-woo experience. But it prayed, and then it called my husband a wizard, and it called me a witch. And we were like, holy shit. And then we went home, and we were convinced that something followed us. I don't know if it did. I don't know if it was already hanging outside my house, but we were doing the same thing outside my house because we kept hearing like weird ass noises. And so we set up all of our stuff, and we were talking to it. And so I was like, well, what are you? Like, what do you want? What are you? And this thing was like, first it tried to convince me that it was my dead dad, which is really funny because I've only talked to my biological father a couple times in my life. But I was like, okay, if you're my dead dad, tell me the last time we did talk, what did he teach me how to cook? And I made a comment to my husband. I was like, he's super Sicilian, and let's see what it says. And the fucking thing said spaghetti. And I was like, it wasn't fucking spaghetti. That's kind of prejudice, isn't it? Like, spaghetti. And then it told me that it was like a ghost. It was a this. It was a that. And I was like, okay, obviously you're none of those things. And then it asked for a doorway. And it was the creepiest experience of my fucking life. It was like, I need a door. I want to come in. And I was like, that's not going to fucking happen. And my husband was like, we need to get rid of whatever this thing is, because that's not okay. It wanted to come in the house and like it kept asking like weird shit. And we were like, okay, we're done with that. So that's my weird story, is the weird thing that lived outside my house that may or may not have followed me from the priest grave.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either. It hasn't been a problem in a while. Like we put a shit ton of iron around devil's claw and tried to get rid of everything that we could have out there. And it hasn't been a problem in a while. Now, knock on wood. I don't have any wood. Damn it. Hopefully it doesn't become a problem again.
I got you.
But thank you. I heard the knock. But yeah, it was super creepy. I was not a fan of that one.
Do you grow devil's claw there?
I don't. I wish I did. I get it from what is the name of that fucking store? Is it Fantasia? I think Fantasia is where I got it from. It might have been one of the other ones. My favorite store that was in what's it called? Phoenix. They closed down and I guess moved to Paris. But I'm really sad about that. Have you ever been to Zombie World Market? Yeah. Yeah, Zombie World Market.
No, I've never been there. Who? Well, I don't know.
They were the
My best
coolest
friend
fucking store, dude.
Paris like a year and a half ago, so whatever.
I guess Paris is the fucking place to be. I literally spent a month trying to find their email or them on social media because they made this oil that I was obsessed with and I couldn't find it anywhere else. So I tracked them down and was like, hey, I will die if I don't have this oil that you made. And they're like, we can figure it out. Cool people.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. I was super nervous, but I had a great time.
Everybody make sure to go down and check the show notes for the links so you can go follow, see everywhere. And I will see you on the internet, even though you hate social media. Okay, bye.
Bye.
See, hello, welcome to Hive House.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Say when. I forgot that have not told you that I'm shuffling cards. Say when.
Okay. When?
Oh no.
What
tattoos do you have or do you want to get?
What do I want to get?
Tattoos.
Oh, I was actually thinking about fixing my I have the Odin's ravens on my shoulder. I know I have no clue what my thought process was, but I was like, he's gonna think I'm the coolest if I eat this bug.
Who plays you in the movie? To hear more of the members only episode, head over to crepuscularconjuration.com. The monthly magic tier will give you access to the monthly Magic Marco Polo group, the private Facebook group, and access to the written monthly spells. There's also Crepuscular Conjurations, giving you bonus podcast episodes, coloring pages, guided meditations, spellcrafting videos, printable downloads, and a lot more. The free Witchy Wonderment level will give you a little sample of everything I just mentioned. You can also visit my shop, Clever Kim's Curios, to get spell boxes one at a time or by monthly subscription, intentional handcrafted jewelry that I make especially for witches, and handmade altar tools. You can even listen to the full Your Average Witch podcast library, including show notes and transcripts. Check it out at crepuscularconjuration.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Your Average Witch. You can find us all around the internet on Instagram at Your Average Witch Podcast, facebook.com/groups/hivehouse, at www.youraveragewitch.com, and at your favorite podcast service. If you'd like to recommend someone for the podcast, like to be on it yourself, or if you'd like to advertise on the podcast, send an email to youraveragetwitchpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next Tuesday.